History holds countless secrets, but some of its most tantalizing mysteries are the artifacts left behind, objects so strange, so out of place, that even the brightest minds today still can't crack their codes. What if I told you there are relics from ancient civilizations that defy explanation, with origins and purposes lost to time? From a mechanical device centuries ahead of its era to stone carvings that seem to depict impossible knowledge, these aren't just curiosities, they're enigmas that challenge everything we think we know about the past. Today, we're uncovering 30 of these baffling artifacts, each one a puzzle waiting to be solved. Why were they made, who used them, and what secrets do they still guard? Stick around, because some of these discoveries will make you question history itself. Let's dive in. Picture this: 2,000 years ago, someone crafted a complex machine with tiny bronze gears, a device so precise it could predict celestial events decades in advance. That's the Antikythera Mechanism, pulled from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece in 1901. At first glance, it looked like a corroded lump of metal, but X-rays revealed an astonishing truth inside: interlocking gears, dials, and inscriptions that functioned like an ancient astronomical calculator. This wasn't just ahead of its time, it was centuries beyond anything else from the ancient world. Scholars believe it could track the movements of the sun, moon, and even predict eclipses with eerie accuracy. But here's the mystery: who built it and how? The technology matches nothing else from that era, not even close. Some argue it was the work of legendary Greek inventors like Archimedes, while others suspect a lost workshop of geniuses we've forgotten. And that's just the start. Why was this level of engineering lost for over 1,000 years? The Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just defy expectations, it rewrites what we thought was possible in antiquity. Hidden away in a Yale University library lies a book that has stumped cryptographers, linguists, and historians for over a century: the Voynich Manuscript. Its pages are covered in an unknown script, looping and curling in ways no one can read, accompanied by illustrations of plants that don't seem to exist and celestial charts that defy known astronomy. Dating back to the 15th century, this bizarre document has resisted every attempt at translation, from wartime codebreakers to modern AI algorithms. Some believe it holds alchemical secrets or lost herbal knowledge, while skeptics insist it's an elaborate medieval prank, a nonsense book designed to baffle. But here's what makes it even stranger. Statistical analysis shows its text follows patterns found in real languages, suggesting there's a method to its madness. Could it be a cipher hiding revolutionary knowledge, or simply the work of a brilliant forger having fun? After centuries of scrutiny, the Voynich Manuscript keeps its secrets locked tight, daring us to solve a puzzle with no answer key. Deep in the ruins of Crete's ancient Minoan civilization lies another artifact that defies decoding: the Phaistos disc. Discovered in 1908 within the Grand Palace of Phaistos, this clay disc is unlike anything else from the Bronze Age. Both sides are covered with 45 distinct symbols, stamped in a tight spiral pattern, everything from human figures and animals to abstract shapes resembling weapons or tools. At first glance, it looks almost like a primitive printing press was used to create it, centuries before such technology should have existed. But the real mystery isn't just how it was made, it's what it says. Over 240 symbols form what seems to be a deliberate message, yet no one has ever cracked its code. Some linguists believe it's an early form of writing, possibly a sacred hymn or a royal decree. Others argue the symbols might represent a board game, a ritual object, or even an ancient star map. The problem: no other examples of this script exist, making comparisons impossible. Here's where things get even stranger. The disc symbols don't match linear or B, the other known scripts of the Minoans, leaving scholars with no key to unlock its meaning. Over the years, countless attempts have been made. Some claim to have translated fragments, suggesting prayers or lists, but none have held up under scrutiny. Skeptics have even questioned whether it's genuine, though most experts agree it's the real deal. What's undeniable is that the Phaistos disc remains a linguistic ghost, a message from the past that refuses to be read. Was it a forgotten language, a secret code, or something purely ceremonial? Until another clue surfaces, this enigmatic relic keeps its secrets tightly wound, just like the spiral of symbols etched into its surface. In the dusty archives of Iraq's National Museum sits a collection of clay jars that might just rewrite the history of technology, the so-called Baghdad batteries. Discovered in the 1930s near the ancient city of Ctesiphon, these unassuming objects date back over 2,000 years to the Parthian Empire. Each consists of a terracotta pot, a copper cylinder, and an iron rod, simple components that, when assembled, suspiciously resemble a rudimentary battery. The theory goes like this: fill the jar with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, and the chemical reaction between the copper and iron could generate a small electrical charge. Experiments in modern times have proven it's possible. Replicas have produced around 1 volt of electricity, enough to power a simple light or electroplate metal with gold. If true, this would mean ancient Mesopotamians harnessed electricity centuries before Alessandro Volta's official battery invention in 1800. But here's where historians clash. Skeptics argue there's no evidence these jars were ever used for electricity. No wires, no electroplated artifacts, no written records hinting at such knowledge. Instead, they propose the jars were sacred storage for scrolls, their metal components merely decorative or symbolic, the acidic residue found inside could just be traces of fermented liquids used in rituals. The debate boils down to a haunting question: was this an accidental discovery, a forgotten spark of genius, or just a case of modern wishful thinking? Without definitive proof, the Baghdad battery remains a tantalizing what-if, a relic caught between myth and potential groundbreaking reality. Whatever its true purpose, it forces us to wonder, how many other ancient inventions have we misunderstood? One of history's most hotly debated relics lies folded away in a cathedral in northern Italy, the Shroud of Turin. This delicate linen cloth, measuring over 14 feet long, bears the ghostly imprint of a bearded man with wounds consistent with crucifixion, leading many to believe it once wrapped the body of Jesus Christ. But the real mystery isn't just what it might represent, it's how the image got there in the first place. No paint, dye, or pigment has ever been detected on the fibers. Instead, the faint straw-yellow discoloration seems to be the result of some kind of chemical change, as if the cloth was seared by an unknown burst of energy. Scientists have pored over the shroud for decades, and the debate only grows more complex. In 1988, radiocarbon dating suggested the fabric dated to the Middle Ages, around the 13th or 14th century, far too recent to be biblical. But critics quickly pointed out flaws. The sample might have been contaminated by repairs or even fire damage from a chapel blaze in the 1500s. Later studies noted the weave matches first-century textiles from Judea, and pollen grains trapped in the fibers trace back to plants native to the Holy Land. Then there's the image itself, an eerie, three-dimensional negative that defies artistic explanation. Modern attempts to replicate it using medieval techniques fail to capture its precision. Some theories suggest a rare reaction between decomposing body gases and the linen, while others propose an electrostatic discharge or some long-lost photographic method. Even NASA researchers were baffled, admitting the image has properties they can't fully explain. Whether divine relic or medieval masterpiece, the shroud refuses to surrender its secrets. For believers, it's a tangible link to the crucifixion. For skeptics, it's an unsolvable riddle crafted by an unknown genius. One thing's certain: this fragile piece of cloth continues to challenge science, faith, and the limits of what we think we know about the past. High in the remote mountains of China's Bayan Ha region, A bizarre archaeological claim has sparked debate for decades: the mystery of the Dropa stones. According to a controversial story from the 1930s, a team of explorers discovered a series of perfectly circular stone discs buried deep within a cave system, each one etched with impossibly tiny spiral inscriptions. Even stranger, local legends spoke of an ancient tribe called the Dropa, who supposedly descended from star travelers after their spacecraft crashed there thousands of years ago. The stones, some claimed, told their story. Measuring up to a foot in diameter, the discs were said to have a hole in the center like phonograph records, with grooves so fine they could only be seen under magnification. When examined, researchers allegedly found the hieroglyphs spoke of beings from the stars stranded on Earth, unable to repair their vessel. If true, this would be one of the most staggering pieces of evidence for ancient alien contact ever uncovered. But here's the catch: almost everything about the Dropa stones crumbles under scrutiny. No credible photographs, museum records, or scientific studies of the discs have ever been verified. The original expedition leader's name can't even be confirmed, and modern scholars dismiss the tale as a hoax or folklore gone viral. Some suggest the story was inspired by actual carved stone artifacts found in the region, ordinary Neolithic burial discs with no connection to aliens. Yet the legend persists, fueled by tantalizing what-ifs. Could there be a kernel of truth buried beneath decades of exaggeration? Or is this just another case of our fascination with cosmic visitors rewriting history? Until, or unless, the original stones resurface, the Dropa remain lodged between myth and one of archaeology's most stubborn unsolved riddles. Among the treasures of Egypt's Saqqara burial grounds rests a small wooden artifact that looks startlingly out of place, the so-called Saqqara bird. Carved over 2,000 years ago, this delicate object resembles not the usual depictions of falcons or deities, but something far more puzzling. A sleek, winged shape with a distinct vertical tailfin, almost like a modern aircraft. Could this be evidence that ancient Egyptians understood principles of flight long before the Wright brothers? Proponents of the aerodynamic theory point to the bird's uncanny design. Unlike traditional bird carvings, its wings are flat and angled, optimized for lift, while the tail stands upright, a feature absent in nature but critical for stability in man-made flying machines. When aviation engineers reconstructed a scale model, they found it could glide smoothly when launched, suggesting the shape wasn't just artistic whim. Some even speculate it might have been a prototype for a larger, functional glider, though no such device has ever been found. Not everyone's convinced, of course. Skeptics argue it's simply a stylized bird, possibly a child's toy or a weather vane. The curved beak, now broken off, would have made the resemblance to a falcon, a sacred symbol of Horus, far clearer. Others suggest it was a ceremonial object, perhaps meant to carry prayers skyward. Without inscriptions or contextual clues, its true purpose remains speculative. But here's what lingers. If it's just a bird, why does it break so dramatically from Egyptian artistic conventions? And if it's more, how did that knowledge vanish for millennia? Whether a misunderstood religious symbol or a glimpse of lost ingenuity, the Saqqara bird soars as one of history's most provocative what-ifs. In a quiet corner of a Texas museum sits a discovery that seems to defy the timeline of human history: the London Hammer. Found in 1936 near the town of London, Texas, this ordinary-looking tool has an extraordinary backstory. Encased in a chunk of rock dating back over 100 million years, the hammer's head is made of iron far purer than what was typically produced in the 19th century, and its wooden handle shows signs of partial fossilization. How could a clearly man-made object be trapped inside ancient stone? Geologists have a less sensational explanation. They suggest the hammer's rock casing isn't as old as it appears. Instead, it formed through a natural process called concretion, where minerals cement together around an object over centuries, creating the illusion of extreme age. As for the iron's purity, metallurgists point out that small-scale iron production in the 1800s could occasionally yield high-quality results, especially for tools crafted by skilled blacksmiths. Yet the mystery lingers. Why was the hammer found in such an isolated spot, far from known settlements of that era, and why does its design seem oddly advanced for its time? Mainstream archaeology labels it an intriguing anomaly, not proof of lost civilizations. Without additional artifacts or context, the London hammer remains a curiosity, a relic that challenges assumptions but lacks the evidence to rewrite history. Whether a misplaced tool from a forgotten pioneer or something far stranger, it's a reminder that sometimes the most mundane objects can spark the wildest debates. Stretching across nearly 200 square miles of Peru's arid desert floor, the Nazca Lines form one of archaeology's most breathtaking enigmas. These colossal geoglyphs, some stretching over 1,000 feet long, depict everything from intricate spiders and hummingbirds to perfect geometric spirals, yet their full grandeur can only be appreciated from high above. How did a civilization over 2,000 years ago create such precise, oversized designs without the ability to fly? One leading theory suggests the Nazca people used simple tools and careful planning, scaling up small models with ropes and stakes to achieve their massive outlines. But the purpose behind these sprawling artworks is where the real debate begins. Some researchers argue they served as astronomical markers, aligning with solstices or constellations to track seasons for agriculture. Others propose ritualistic functions, perhaps pathways for ceremonial processions or offerings to deities believed to dwell in the sky. The most haunting possibility: that they were meant to be seen not by humans at all, but by beings looking down from above. Skeptics counter with practicality. Many lines follow underground water sources, hinting at a role in resource management. Yet the sheer variety of shapes defies a single explanation. Why pair practical aqueduct markers with a 200-foot monkey or a killer whale hundreds of miles from the ocean? Modern technology has only deepened the mystery, with drones recently uncovering dozens of previously unknown designs buried by time. What's undeniable is the Nazca Lines' enduring power to captivate. Were they a sacred map, a message to the gods, or something even more profound? As erosion and human activity threaten these fragile wonders, the clock ticks on, unraveling their secrets before they fade back into the desert. On the remote shores of Easter Island, famous for its towering moai statues, another ancient puzzle hides in plain sight. The Rongorongo script, carved into weathered wooden tablets, these intricate glyphs swirl and twist in rows that alternate direction with each line, a writing style unlike anything else in the world. Discovered in the 19th century, the symbols range from humanoid figures and plants to abstract shapes resembling tools or celestial bodies. But here's what baffles scholars: no one alive today can read them. The Rongorongo script is often called the other Easter Island mystery, overshadowed by the giant statues but just as enigmatic. What makes it so hard to crack? Isolation plays a key role. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs, which were decoded using the Rosetta Stone's parallel texts, Rongorongo has no known linguistic sibling, no bilingual inscription to serve as a key. Even more frustrating, the island's oral traditions suggest the tablets were sacred, recited aloud by elite priests, but their meanings died with those keepers after European contact disrupted the culture. Decipherment attempts have ranged from plausible to wildly speculative. Some researchers link the glyphs to the island's unique Birdman cult or lunar calendars, while others see genealogical records or even coded navigation maps. But without context, every theory hits the same wall: symbols that might represent syllables, whole words, or something entirely unexpected. The few surviving islanders in the late 19th century admitted the writing was no longer understood, leaving modern linguists to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. What's certain is that Rongorongo stands as one of the few independently invented writing systems in human history. a linguistic island as isolated as the land itself. Were these tablets a sacred library, a historical record, or something more personal? Until another clue surfaces, the whispers of Easter Island's past remain locked in those silent, swirling glyphs. Nestled in a small Bolivian museum, the Fuente Magna bowl sits quietly, yet its inscriptions scream a mystery that could upend history. This carved stone vessel, discovered near Lake Titicaca in the 1950s, shouldn't make sense. Etched into its surface are symbols eerily resembling Sumerian cuneiform, the ancient writing system of Mesopotamia, a civilization separated from Bolivia by thousands of miles and an entire ocean. At first glance, the bowl's markings seem to depict a mix of Proto-Sumerian signs alongside local motifs, as if two worlds collided in clay. Some researchers claim it's smoking gun proof of pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, suggesting Sumerian traders or explorers might have reached South America over 4,000 years ago. They point to similar claims of Phoenician or Egyptian artifacts in the Americas, though none as visually striking as this, but skepticism runs deep. Critics argue the symbols are a haphazard mimicry of cuneiform, close enough to intrigue, but lacking the grammatical structure of real Mesopotamian writing. No other Sumerian artifacts have ever been found in the region, and the bowl surfaced under murky circumstances with no documented excavation. Some linguists even suggest the markings align more closely with local petroglyphs, later misinterpreted due to their superficial resemblance to cuneiform. Mainstream archaeology largely sidelines the Fuente Magna bowl, dismissing it as either a forgery or a case of wishful pareidolia, seeing patterns where none exist. Yet the debate lingers. If it's a hoax, why target Bolivia, far from the hotspots of artifact trafficking? And if genuine, how did Sumerian script end up in the Andes? Until rigorous testing or new discoveries shed light, this enigmatic bowl remains a Rorschach test for history, proof of ancient globalization to some, a cautionary tale of overreach to others. One thing's certain, it challenges us to question just how interconnected the ancient world might have been. Deep within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, an ancient carving has sparked one of Egyptology's most heated debates. The so-called Dendera light relief shows a surreal scene. What looks like a massive light bulb glowing with a filament encased in a vessel supported by a pillar with a snake-like figure coiled inside. To some, this is undeniable proof the Egyptians harnessed electricity, perhaps using primitive batteries like those Baghdad jars we discussed earlier. But before we jump to conclusions, let's unpack why this interpretation is so controversial. Egyptologists have a very different take. They point out that the relief sits alongside other religious imagery, all tied to the myth of the sun god's nightly journey through the underworld. The bulb shape, they argue, is a lotus flower cradling a jed pillar, a symbol of stability, while the filament represents a snake deity emerging from a lotus bud, a common motif in temple art. The entire tableau is thought to depict a creation myth, not a technological diagram, yet the electricity theory refuses to dim. Proponents highlight the eerie parallels. The bulb-like object connects to what resembles an insulated cable, leading to a box that could be interpreted as a power source. Even more intriguing, the temple's underground chambers show no soot marks, unusual for a space supposedly lit by torches. Could this explain how the Egyptians painted tombs in pitch darkness without choking on smoke? Mainstream scholars remain unconvinced, noting that artistic symbolism often gets misread through modern lenses. After all, if the Egyptians had electric light, why haven't we found wires, switches, or clearer written records? The truth may lie somewhere between, a brilliant metaphor for divine energy mistaken centuries later for something shockingly literal. Whether sacred art or lost science, the Dendera relief reminds us that ancient minds saw the world in ways we're still struggling to illuminate. Rising from a rural Georgia field for over 40 years stood a monument as cryptic as any ancient relic. The Georgia Guidestones, Erected in 1980 under equally mysterious circumstances, this towering granite structure bore 10 directives for humanity carved in 8 modern languages from English to Swahili. At first glance, it might resemble a utopian peace project urging harmony and population control, but the lack of any identifiable patron, only a pseudonym, C. Christian, fueled decades of conspiracy theories. Was this a blueprint for a new world order, a time capsule for post-apocalyptic survivors, or something else entirely? The stone's messages walk a fine line between practical and provocative. Some commandments read like environmentalist ideals: maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, while others hint at cryptic governance: guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. The choice of languages suggested a global audience, but who commissioned this eerie manifesto? Investigators traced the project to a local stonemason hired by an anonymous group, their motives buried under layers of secrecy. Even the monument's alignment with celestial events deepened the intrigue, its structure functioning as a calendar, compass, and clock. Then, in 2022, the mystery took a violent turn. Explosives reduced the guidestones to rubble in an act of deliberate destruction, with authorities later citing safety concerns. The timing was suspect, just as renewed internet speculation linked the stones to everything from Masonic plots to transhumanist agendas. Today, only fragments remain, leaving us to wonder: were the guidestones a benign thought experiment or a warning we weren't meant to ignore? Their legacy endures as a modern Rosetta Stone for our deepest fears and aspirations, proving that mystery doesn't always belong to the distant past. In a quiet Minnesota field in 1898, a farmer digging up tree roots unearthed a slab of greywacke stone that would ignite one of archaeology's fiercest debates, the Kensington runestone. Covered in intricate Norse runes, the inscription tells a gripping tale. A band of Viking explorers lost in the wilderness in the year 1362 sought refuge here after a bloody skirmish with native tribes. If genuine, this artifact would rewrite history, proving Nordic adventurers pushed far deeper into North America than even the famous Vinland settlement at Elance Orks Meadows. But for over a century, experts have clashed: is this a medieval relic or an elaborate hoax? Supporters of its authenticity point to compelling details. The runes match 14th century Scandinavian dialects, including archaic phrases unlikely to be known by a 19th century forger. Geological analysis suggests the carvings weathered naturally over centuries, not decades. Even the stone's placement near old waterways that could have served as Viking travel routes hints at plausibility. Some linguists argue the inscription's mix of Swedish and Norwegian reflects the blended crews of real Norse expeditions. Yet skeptics wield sharp counterarguments. The stones surfaced in a community of Swedish immigrants, some with runic knowledge, raising suspicions of a patriotic prank. Oddly, no other Norse artifacts have been found nearby: no tools, no settlements, just this lone message. Critics also note grammatical quirks that align more with modern Scandinavian than medieval texts. Even the dramatic "10 men red with blood" narrative feels suspiciously novelistic for a genuine runestone. The debate took a modern twist when a 2020 study used 3D scanning to analyze tool marks, concluding the carvings showed signs of both ancient and recent work, fueling theories that a genuine stone might have been altered to enhance its drama. For now, the Kensington runestone stands at a crossroads, neither fully debunked nor confirmed. Whether it's a Viking's desperate plea or a clever immigrant's tall tale, this Minnesota mystery keeps us questioning how much of America's past remains hidden beneath our feet. Among the most visually striking and hotly contested ancient relics are the Ica stones of Peru. Discovered in a riverbed near the town of Ica, these thousands of andesite rocks bear intricate carvings that seem to defy history itself. Humans interacting with dinosaurs, advanced surgical procedures, even what appear to be telescopes and flying machines. If authentic, these engravings would suggest an impossibly advanced civilization coexisting with creatures extinct for millions of years. But here's where the story takes a turn. Most archaeologists dismiss the stones as clever hoaxes, and for good reason. The carvings first gained attention in the 1960s when a local farmer named Basilio Ashuya admitted to creating them himself, using modern tools and designs inspired by comic books and magazines. He even demonstrated his technique, showing how he aged the stones by baking them in cow dung to achieve an ancient patina. The sheer volume of stones, over 15,000, also raises eyebrows, as no other artifacts from the same purported culture have ever been found in the region. Yet believers counter with intriguing details. Some stones were reportedly unearthed in undisturbed pre-Columbian burial sites, long before Ashuya's confession. A handful exhibit weathering patterns consistent with centuries of erosion, suggesting they predate modern tampering. And then there's the content itself. How would a rural farmer in the 1960s accurately depict spinal surgeries or dinosaur species only identified by paleontologists decades later? The scientific community remains unmoved, pointing out that artistic license and pop culture could explain these anomalies. Without verifiable provenance or peer-reviewed analysis, the Ica stones linger in the realm of fringe theories, a cautionary tale about how easily our desire for lost history can blur the line between fact and fabrication. Whether elaborate prank or misunderstood artifact, their legacy endures as a testament to humanity's endless fascination with rewriting the past. Tucked away in Istanbul's Topkapi Palace Library lies a map that shouldn't exist, the Piri Reis chart of 1513. Drawn by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this fragment of a larger world map shows coastlines with uncanny precision, including one detail that defies logic: the outline of Antarctica, centuries before it was officially discovered. But here's what's truly baffling: the landmass appears without its modern ice cap, as if the cartographer had access to knowledge lost to time. How could a 16th century navigator depict a continent buried under miles of ice, one that wouldn't be sighted by human eyes for another 300 years? The map's annotations only deepen the mystery. Piri Reis himself wrote that he compiled it from older sources, including charts dating back to Alexander the Great's era, some possibly salvaged from the Library of Alexandria. Skeptics argue that what looks like Antarctica might just be a distorted version of South America, yet the contours align suspiciously well with modern sonar scans of the continent's ice-free bedrock. Even more puzzling are the latitude and longitude lines, plotted with accuracy that shouldn't have been possible without advanced astronomical tools. Mainstream scholars propose simpler explanations: coincidental distortion, misidentified landmasses, or even lucky guesswork layered with creative flourishes. But the map's defenders counter with a tantalizing "what if?" Could it preserve fragments of ancient seafaring knowledge, passed down from a civilization that explored the globe long before recorded history? The truth may never be settled, but one thing's certain: the Piri Reis map forces us to reconsider just how much of our planet's past remains uncharted. Whether a stroke of cartographic genius or a window into forgotten exploration, it stands as a ghostly reminder that history's greatest discoveries might still be hidden in plain sight. In a small California town back in 1961, a pair of fossil hunters cracked open what appeared to be an ordinary geode, only to find something that defied every geological law. Nestled inside the ancient rock was an object that looked unmistakably like a 20th century spark plug. Dubbed the Coso Artifact, this bizarre discovery sparked a firestorm of debate. How could a man-made mechanical part end up encased in stone supposedly 500,000 years old? At first glance, the facts seem impossible. X-rays revealed a porcelain cylinder surrounding a magnetic metal rod, complete with a rust-resistant alloy design, features eerily similar to early 20th century spark plugs, particularly those used in Model T Fords. Yet the geode's outer layers showed mineral deposits suggesting extreme age far predating human industry. Fringe theorists pounced, claiming it as evidence of lost advanced civilizations or even extraterrestrial visitors leaving technology behind. Geologists offer a more grounded explanation. They argue the geode might actually be a concretion, a hardened lump of sediment that forms much faster around objects, sometimes within decades. The spark plug could have been buried in mud near a road or workshop, then encased by mineral-rich water seeping through. As for the dated layers, contamination or misreading of the mineral patterns could skew results. Skeptics also note the artifact strongly resembles a 1920s-era champion spark plug, right down to its dimensions and materials, but here's where the mystery thickens. The original discoverers insist the geode showed no signs of recent disturbance, and no roads or factories existed nearby when it was found. Even if it's only a century-old tool, how did it become so perfectly fossilized? While mainstream science leans toward a modern object trapped in young rock, the Coso artifact lingers as a favorite among anomaly hunters. A humble spark plug that, for a brief moment, made us question whether our timeline of technology is missing a few fiery chapters. Among the dusty scrolls of ancient Egypt, one fragmented text stands out for its jaw-dropping claim: the Tully Papyrus. Unlike typical temple inventories or royal decrees, this damaged document allegedly describes an event so bizarre it feels ripped from modern UFO lore. A fleet of fiery disks soaring across the sky during the reign of Pharaoh Thutmose III around 1450 BCE. The account, as pieced together from translations, reads like something from a sci-fi novel. It speaks of circles of fire brighter than the sun, hovering in formation before ascending into the heavens, an event so shocking, it supposedly drove the pharaoh and his priests to ashes and panic. At first glance, this seems like irrefutable proof that ancient Egyptians witnessed unexplained aerial phenomena. But here's the catch: almost everything about this document is shrouded in controversy. For starters, the original papyrus has never been publicly examined. What we have are transcripts from the 1930s, when an Italian antiquities dealer named Alberto Tully claimed to have found the text before it crumbled to dust. No photographs, no carbon dating, just second-hand translations filled with ambiguous phrasing. Skeptics argue the wording could easily describe celestial events like meteor showers or atmospheric halos, phenomena Egyptians often interpreted through religious symbolism. The circles of fire might have been poetic language for solar disks, sacred to gods like Ra or Aten. Even the translation itself is hotly debated. Some scholars point out that the verb choices align more closely with descriptions of ritual ceremonies than spacecraft. And without the original papyrus to verify hieroglyphic context, it's impossible to rule out metaphors or scribble errors. Mainstream Egyptology largely dismisses the Tully papyrus as either a modern fabrication or a misunderstood fragment of mythology. Yet the allure persists. Could this be a garbled record of a genuine, inexplicable event? Or does its ambiguity reveal more about our own fascination with ancient mysteries than anything the Egyptians actually witnessed? Until new evidence surfaces, the Tully papyrus remains a Rorschach test, ancient history's version of seeing shapes in the clouds. One thing's certain: it's a reminder that the past often refuses to conform to the boxes we try to put it in. Scattered across Costa Rica's lush jungles and riverbeds lie hundreds of enigmatic stone spheres, some no larger than a grapefruit, others weighing over 15 tons. Known locally as Los Bolas, these perfectly round artifacts were carved with astonishing precision over 1,000 years ago by the now vanished Diquis culture. But here's what stumps archaeologists: how did a pre-Columbian society without metal tools or advanced mathematics achieve such flawless symmetry in granite and other hard stones? The sphere's craftsmanship borders on supernatural. Laser scans revealed deviations of less than 2 millimeters in diameter, near-perfect spheres rivaling modern machining. Theories about their construction range from careful pecking and grinding with stone tools to the use of heated wooden wedges that fractured rock along precise lines. Yet even more puzzling is their purpose. Some sit in deliberate alignments, suggesting celestial markers for solstices or constellations. Others cluster near ancient settlements, possibly denoting tribal boundaries or elite gathering sites. A few even rest atop burial mounds, hinting at ritual significance. But the mystery deepens with their rediscovery in the 1930s, when banana plantations unearthed them by the dozens. Many were moved or damaged, erasing clues about their original placements. Modern researchers have pieced together fragments of the puzzle. The spheres likely peaked in use between 800 and 1500 CE, vanishing alongside the Dikwis civilization itself. Without written records, their true meaning remains locked in stone. Were they cosmic calendars, symbols of power, or something more profound? One tantalizing clue comes from local folklore, which whispers that the spheres were gifts from the gods, a reminder that even the most silent artifacts can echo with the voices of the past. Whatever their purpose, these stone enigmas stand as a testament to human ingenuity, daring us to unravel a mystery shaped by hands we'll never know. Buried in the sands of modern-day Iraq, the Ubaid culture left behind artifacts so bizarre, they've fueled speculation for decades. The Ubaid lizardmen. Dating back over 7,000 years, these terracotta figurines depict humanoid bodies with alarmingly reptilian features. Elongated heads, slanted almond-shaped eyes, and unmistakably lizard-like faces. Some cradle infants, others strike poses that blur the line between ritual and realism. But the real question isn't just what they represent, it's why an ancient society would craft something so unsettling in the first place. Archaeologists have struggled to pin down their purpose. One prevailing theory links them to shamanistic practices, suggesting the figures symbolize a spiritual connection to serpent deities, creatures associated with wisdom and renewal in many Mesopotamian myths. The way some figurines clutch their torsos or infants hints at fertility rites, possibly invoking protection for childbirth, but skeptics counter with a simpler explanation: stylized artistic expression. After all, Ubaid artisans often exaggerated features like eyes or heads in their human figurines too. Then there's the more controversial angle, the ancient astronaut theory. Proponents point to the figurines' uncanny resemblance to modern depictions of reptilian aliens, arguing these could be artistic records of otherworldly visitors. It's a tantalizing idea, but mainstream scholars dismiss it as projection, noting that humans have used animal hybrids in art for millennia to represent gods, not extraterrestrials. Perhaps what's most fascinating isn't the theories themselves, but our own reactions. Something about these figures triggers a primal unease, the same instinct that makes us recoil at snakes or hissing sounds. Whether sacred symbols, artistic quirks, or something far stranger, the Ubaid lizardmen remain a haunting reminder that the past doesn't always comfort us. Sometimes it stares back with slit-pupilled eyes, daring us to unravel its secrets. Beneath the waters of Romania's Mureș River, construction workers in 1974 stumbled upon an object that shouldn't exist: the Aod wedge. Buried under 35 feet of ancient sediment, this 5-pound metal block baffled experts when tests revealed it was composed of 90% aluminum, an element that wasn't smelted in pure form until the 19th century. So how did it end up encased in layers of earth dating back over 20,000 years? Initial analysis showed the wedge had traces of unusual alloys, including zinc and traces of lead, a combination found in some aerospace materials. Coupled with symmetrical grooves and a concave depression, the object looks eerily like a component from heavy machinery. Proponents of the out-of-place artifact theory argue it's evidence of lost technology, possibly from an advanced prehistoric culture or even extraterrestrial visitors. But skeptics have a simpler explanation. It's likely a fragment from a World War Roman II-era vehicle or aircraft, perhaps a broken shovel tooth or landing gear part. Aluminum was widely used by militaries in the 1940s, and the Meuse River saw heavy machinery activity during the war. Over time, natural sedimentation could have buried it deeper than expected, creating the illusion of antiquity. The debate hinges on one stubborn detail: the sediment layer where it was found. Geologists stand divided. Some insist the strata placement is definitive, while others note riverbeds can shift dramatically, mixing old and new deposits. Without additional artifacts or documentation from the original excavation, the Aod wedge remains suspended between two timelines, a relic either impossibly ahead of its time or tragically misunderstood. Whether a fragment of forgotten innovation or a wartime scrap, it challenges us to question how easily the past can be misread when viewed through the lens of our own assumptions. Deep in the mines of South Africa, workers have pulled strange metallic spheres from rock layers dating back an astonishing 2.8 billion years. Known as the grooved spheres or Klerksdorp spheres, these objects look anything but natural, perfectly round, some with fine equatorial grooves, as if precision machined by unseen hands. Their discovery has sparked fierce debate. Are these relics of an impossibly ancient civilization, or just another quirk of our planet's geology? Proponents of the ancient technology theory highlight their uncanny features. The spheres come in two types: solid bluish metal with a rough texture, and others with a fibrous interior encased in a thin shell. Most striking are the grooves, some so precise they appear artificial, leading some researchers to speculate they were components of advanced machinery or tools. Even more baffling is their composition. Many contain pyrophyllite, a mineral formed under intense pressure, yet the spheres themselves show no signs of deformation. But geologists urge caution. They explain that these objects are likely concretions, natural mineral formations that accumulate layer by layer in sedimentary rock, sometimes forming near-perfect spheres due to uniform crystallization. The grooves, possibly caused by differential erosion as softer layers wore away over eons. Similar spheres have been found worldwide from Ohio to Australia, all with comparable geological origins. Yet the mystery lingers. Why do some spheres exhibit such symmetry while others nearby do not? And why does their age, predating complex life on Earth by billions of years, ignite such fascination? Whether marvels of ancient engineering or nature's oddities, the grooved spheres challenge us to question where the line between the extraordinary and the mundane truly lies. One thing's certain: in a planet as old as ours, even the simplest stone can hold the seeds of wonder. In the quiet soil of a Native American shell midden in Maine, archaeologists uncovered something that shouldn't have been there: a small silver coin, its surface etched with a familiar yet out-of-place symbol, the unmistakable cross and runes of a Norse penny. Dated to the reign of King Olaf Kyrre of Norway between 1067 and 1093, this artifact, known as the Main Penny, poses a tantalizing question. How did a Viking-era coin end up buried in a 12th century Wabanaki settlement, centuries before Columbus set sail? For believers in pre-Columbian contact, the penny is a smoking gun. It aligns with sagas describing Viking voyages to North America, like Leif Erikson's famed settlement at Elance Oaks Meadows. The coin's wear patterns suggest it circulated for years before being lost, hinting at sustained interaction between Norse explorers and indigenous peoples. Some even speculate it could have traveled south through native trade networks, passed hand to hand from Vinland to Maine, yet skeptics raise serious doubts. Only one such coin has ever been found in the Americas, despite decades of searching. The excavation site itself was a multi-layered midden where objects from different eras could easily mix. Could the penny have been dropped by a later collector or even planted as a hoax? Adding to the mystery, the coin's design matches types commonly traded in Europe well into the medieval period, meaning it might have arrived with early European fishermen or settlers long after the Viking Age. The debate hinges on context. No Norse tools, structures, or other coins were found nearby, leaving the penny isolated in the archaeological record. Even if genuine, does it prove Vikings reached Maine, or simply that their currency did? Without more evidence, the Maine penny remains a fascinating outlier, a whisper of transatlantic contact that refuses to be dismissed, yet can't quite rewrite history on its own. Whether a Viking's lost pocket change or a later wanderer's curious relic, it's a tiny piece of a puzzle still missing too many pieces. In the heart of Mexico, far from the ruins of Rome, a discovery in 1933 sent shockwaves through the archaeological world: the Tlaxcala head. Buried under undisturbed layers of earth dating to pre-Columbian times, this small terracotta sculpture bears an uncanny resemblance to classical Roman art, from its wavy beard to its distinctively European facial features. The implications are staggering. If authentic, this artifact could rewrite history, suggesting transatlantic contact between ancient Rome and Mesoamerica over 1,000 years before Columbus. Experts remain sharply divided. Proponents of its authenticity point to the context: the head was found beneath a temple floor linked to the 12th century Toltec culture, with no signs of later disturbance. Stylistic analysis connects it to 2nd or 3rd century Roman art, particularly the Hellenistic influence seen in Antioch and Syria. Some theorists even speculate it could have arrived via a lost Roman ship blown off course, or through a chain of trade networks stretching further than we ever imagined. Detractors, however, highlight red flags. The artifact surfaced during a period when sensational finds often turned out to be hoaxes. No other Roman objects have ever been found in the region, making this a glaring outlier. Skeptics also note similarities to Spanish colonial art, raising the possibility of contamination or misdating. Even the head's clean break at the neck, with no matching body, hints at tampering or modern insertion into the site. The debate took a modern turn when thermoluminescence testing in the 90s dated the terracotta to between 900 and 1300 CE, placing it firmly in the pre-Columbian era. Yet without corroborating evidence, the Tlaxcala head remains an enigma. Is it proof of a fleeting encounter between worlds, or merely a reflection of how easily human creativity can converge across continents? Either way, it stands as a provocative challenge to the boundaries of history, a face from an impossible place, staring back at us with unanswered questions. Nestled in a small Austrian museum, the Wolfsegg iron sits unassumingly, yet its origins spark debates that stretch back millions of years. Discovered in 1885 by miners digging through a tertiary period coal seam, this fist-sized cube of hardened iron shouldn't have been there. The coal layer where it was found dates back roughly 20 million years, a time when humans didn't exist, let alone metalworking. So how did this mysterious object end up entombed in ancient Earth? At first glance, the Wolfsegg iron seems almost deliberately crafted. Its sharp edges and flat faces appear too precise for nature. Early researchers speculated it might be a relic from an advanced prehistoric civilization, or even evidence of extraterrestrial visitors leaving behind tools. Others proposed it could be a fragment of a meteorite forged in the fires of space, but when scientists analyzed its composition, things got even more puzzling. The cube contains no nickel, a metal almost always present in meteoritic iron. Instead, it's nearly pure iron with traces of sulfur and carbon, closer to human-made cast iron than anything from the cosmos. Skeptics have a simpler explanation. It's likely a piece of mining equipment from a much later era, perhaps dropped or discarded by workers and somehow embedded in older strata. Coal seams can shift over time, and objects occasionally sink into lower layers, creating false associations with ancient geology. There's also the possibility the cube was an industrial byproduct, like a leftover from early iron smelting that found its way into the mine. Yet the mystery endures. Why does the Wolfsegg iron lack the corrosion typical of centuries-old iron artifacts? and why was it found deep within undisturbed coal, far from any known human activity of its time? While mainstream science leans toward a mining mishap, the artifact's defenders argue that its peculiar composition and context still leave room for doubt. Whether a geological oddity or a ghost of forgotten industry, this unassuming cube forces us to confront how easily the past can blur the line between the ordinary and the inexplicable. It's a reminder that sometimes the most mundane objects can become magnets for the wildest speculation, especially when they're found in places they simply don't belong. Beneath the turquoise waters off Japan's Yonaguni Island lies a site that defies easy explanation. Massive, angular terraces rising from the ocean floor like the steps of a drowned palace. Known as the Yonaguni Monument, this sprawling underwater structure stretches over 200 feet long, with near-perfect 90-degree angles, flat platforms, and what appear to be carved pillars. To some, it's the undeniable remains of an ancient city, lost to rising seas thousands of years ago, but to others, it's nothing more than nature's handiwork, a stunning geological oddity. So which is it? Proponents of the artificial origin point to uncanny features. The monument's flat surfaces and sharp edges resemble man-made masonry, with what looks like a grand staircase and even a triangular pool. Marine archaeologist Masaki Kimura has spent decades studying the site, arguing that tool marks and alignments with solstices suggest intentional design. If he's right, this could be a relic of a forgotten Pacific civilization, possibly linked to the mythical lost continent of Mu or a precursor to Japan's Jomon culture. Geologists, however, paint a different picture. They argue that Yonaguni sits in an earthquake-prone zone, where seismic activity has fractured sandstone into dramatic, geometric formations for millennia. The same forces that create natural step-like cliffs on land could produce identical structures underwater. Even the so-called carved features might simply be the result of coral erosion or tidal forces wearing away softer rock layers. Skeptics note that similar formations exist worldwide, no human intervention required, yet the debate rages on. Why do some of the monument's tiers align so precisely? Could natural processes really create such symmetrical tiers? The truth may lie somewhere in between, a natural formation possibly enhanced by human hands, or simply a quirk of geology that looks intentional. Until definitive proof emerges, Yonaguni remains a haunting enigma, a place where the line between nature's artistry and humanity's imprint blurs beneath the waves. Whether a sunken city or a marvel of the deep, one thing's certain: it's a reminder that our planet still holds mysteries that refuse to surface easily. High in the remote mountains of China's Qinghai province, a series of bizarre metal pipes juts out from the walls of Mount Baigong, twisted, rusted, and embedded deep within ancient rock. Known as the Baigong pipes, these hollow tubes stretch across the cave floor and even plunge into a nearby saltwater lake, forming a strange network that looks eerily deliberate. But here's the catch. Geological testing suggests they could be up to 150,000 years old, long before humans supposedly mastered metallurgy. So what are they, and who, or what could have left them there? At first glance, the pipes seem almost industrial. Some are perfectly aligned, branching at right angles, while others taper into strange, organic shapes. Local legends whisper they're remnants of an alien outpost or advanced prehistoric civilization, left behind by visitors from the stars. Even more intriguing, tests by Chinese researchers revealed the metal contains unusual elements like silicon dioxide and calcium oxide materials associated with high-temperature smelting. But skeptics counter with a far simpler explanation. These might just be fossilized tree roots. It sounds improbable, but nature has a way of playing tricks. When mineral-rich water seeps into buried roots, it can gradually replace organic material with iron and other metals, creating hollow, pipe-like formations over millennia. Similar pipes have been found worldwide from Louisiana to France, all explained by this natural process. Yet the Bagong pipe's symmetry and sheer scale keep the debate alive. Why do some sections resemble purposeful joints, and why do they cluster near the lake as if part of a larger engineered system? Scientists remain divided. Some argue the area's volcanic history could have forged the pipes through rare mineralization, while others insist their composition hints at something more deliberate. Without definitive proof, the Bagong pipes linger at the edge of mystery, a testament to how easily nature can mirror human handiwork, or perhaps a ghostly fingerprint from a time we've yet to understand. Whether geological oddity or relic of a lost era, one thing's certain: these twisted metal veins refuse to fit neatly into any textbook. Tucked away in the gold-rich soil of Colombia, a collection of ancient artifacts has sparked one of the most fascinating debates in archaeology: the Quimbaya figurines. Crafted by the Quimbaya civilization around 1,000 years ago, these intricate golden objects were initially dismissed as stylized birds, insects, or even fish. But take a closer look, and something peculiar emerges. Some of these tiny masterpieces bear an uncanny resemblance to modern aircraft, complete with delta wings, stabilizers, and even what appear to be cockpits. Could they really be evidence of advanced knowledge lost to time? The theory gained traction when engineers and aerodynamics experts examined the figurines. Stripped of their artistic flourishes, several models exhibit aerodynamic features that shouldn't have existed in pre-Columbian America. Some even mimic the exact proportions of supersonic jets, raising the tantalizing question: did the Quimbaya witness or imagine flying machines centuries before human flight became reality? Proponents argue these can't just be random artistic choices, pointing out how precisely the shapes align with principles of lift and stability. But skeptics have a compelling counter: nature often inspires art. Many of the so-called aircraft closely resemble stingrays or beetles, species native to the region. The Quimbaya were master goldsmiths, known for their stylized animal designs, and some figurines clearly depict wildlife, just abstracted enough to spark modern misinterpretations. Even the cockpit might simply be a decorative head or ornamentation, a common feature in indigenous art of the era. Then there's the cultural context. The Quimbaya left no records of flight technology, and no other artifacts suggest mechanical knowledge beyond metallurgy. Without corroborating evidence like tools, blueprints, or even oral traditions, it's a stretch to assume these were anything more than symbolic or religious objects. Yet the mystery lingers. Why do these shapes resonate so strongly with modern engineering? Whether a case of artistic coincidence or a glimpse of forgotten ingenuity, the Quimbaya figurines challenge us to reconsider the boundaries of ancient creativity. They remind us that sometimes the past holds reflections of our own world, whether by design, imagination, or sheer, unexplainable chance. Buried deep within a slab of Scottish sandstone, an ordinary-looking hammer became the center of one of archaeology's greatest head-scratchers. Discovered in 1844 near Kingudi Quarry, this simple tool, with its wooden handle and iron head, was encased in rock dating back an astounding 400 million years. That's a time when life on Earth was just beginning to crawl onto land, long before humans or even dinosaurs existed. So how does a seemingly modern hammer end up trapped in stone older than the first trees? At first glance, the Kingudi hammer looks like something a 19th century laborer might have dropped, but the rock surrounding it tells a different story. Geologists confirmed the sandstone layer formed during the Devonian period, an era so ancient even the concept of metal tools should have been impossible. Those who champion it as an out-of-place artifact argue this proves the existence of an advanced, forgotten civilization, or even extraterrestrial visitors who left behind tools from another time. Skeptics, however, offer a simpler explanation. They suggest the hammer might have been a miner's lost tool that became embedded in softer sediment, which then hardened over decades, giving the illusion of extreme age. The rock's porous nature could have allowed water and minerals to seep in, cementing the hammer in place relatively quickly. And let's not overlook the hammer's design. Its iron composition and craftsmanship closely resemble 19th century blacksmith work, not some unfathomable prehistoric technology. Yet the debate lingers. Why hasn't the wood handle fully fossilized despite its supposed antiquity? And why does the surrounding rock show no visible cracks or disturbances where the hammer could have been inserted? While mainstream science leans toward a modern object trapped in younger rock, the Kingudi hammer remains a stubborn puzzle, an artifact that forces us to question whether our planet's history holds gaps far wider than we've ever imagined. Whether a lost relic of an unimaginable past or a simple case of geological sleight of hand, one thing's certain: it's a humbling reminder that some discoveries refuse to fit neatly into the timeline we've written for ourselves. There's something eerie lurking beneath the Baltic Sea, a mystery that's puzzled scientists and fueled wild theories since its discovery in 2011. Known as the Baltic Sea Anomaly, this bizarre disc-shaped structure was first spotted by a Swedish dive team using sonar. Stretching nearly 200 feet across with strange angular formations and what looks like a staircase leading down, it's no wonder some immediately dubbed it a sunken UFO. But is this really evidence of extraterrestrial visitors, or just another case of nature playing tricks on us? Sonar images reveal uncanny details: a smooth, rounded top, geometric ridges, and even what appears to be a tail-like formation trailing behind. Divers who have ventured down describe the surface as rough, almost like concrete, with odd circular patterns that don't match typical rock formations. Adding to the intrigue, electronic devices reportedly malfunction near the site, a detail that's fanned the flames of conspiracy theories. Could this be the remnants of an ancient alien craft buried beneath centuries of sediment? Geologists offer a far less sensational explanation. They argue the anomaly likely formed during the last ice age, when glaciers scraped and sculpted the seabed, leaving behind massive, unnatural-looking deposits. The Baltic Sea region is littered with glacial debris, and the anomaly's composition, mostly sandstone and basalt, matches other natural formations in the area. As for the electronic disturbances, underwater mineral deposits like manganese nodules could interfere with equipment, creating false impressions of something more sinister. Yet the debate refuses to die. Why does the anomaly's shape appear so unnaturally symmetrical? Could glacial activity really produce such sharp angles and stair-like features? Until further testing is done, preferably with deep-sea submersibles, this enigmatic structure will keep straddling the line between geological curiosity and modern myth. Whether a remnant of Earth's icy past or something far stranger, the Baltic Sea anomaly proves that even in our mapped and measured world, the deep still holds secrets waiting to surface. From ancient star maps etched in stone to unreadable manuscripts and out-of-place relics that defy time itself, these 30 artifacts remind us that history is far stranger than any textbook could capture. Each one stands as a riddle left by the past, challenging our assumptions about human ingenuity, lost civilizations, and even our place in the cosmos. Whether it's the precision of the Antikythera Mechanism, the eerie glyphs of Rongorongo, or the uncanny aircraft like Quimbaya figurines, these mysteries force us to question how much of our story remains untold. Perhaps what captivates us most isn't just the unanswered questions, it's the thrill of the hunt. These artifacts whisper tantalizing possibilities, forgotten technologies, chance encounters between distant cultures, or even glimpses of knowledge we're only now rediscovering. They blur the line between myth and reality, proving that the past refuses to be neatly categorized. And that's the magic. Every crackpot theory, every scholarly debate, every new discovery keeps the conversation alive, pushing us to look deeper. So what do you think? Are these objects evidence of advanced ancient civilizations, cosmic visitors, or simply the boundless creativity of our ancestors. Maybe you've heard of another artifact that belongs on this list, something even more baffling. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear which mystery keeps you up at night. And if you're hungry for more mind-bending history, don't forget to subscribe. Who knows, the next video might just uncover the clue that finally cracks one of these enigmas wide open. Until then, keep questioning, because the past always has another secret to share.